The snow fell softly outside the tall glass windows of the CEO's mansion, the kind of quiet snowfall that made the world feel paused, beautiful, but painfully still. Inside, the fire crackled, casting long shadows across the empty living room. Every Christmas Eve for the past 5 years, Eleanor Hartley, one of the country's most powerful CEOs, had sat alone with her untouched glass of wine and the memories of a life she never thought would end up this cold. She could have been anywhere in the world, Paris, New York, a tropical island, but she always stayed home. Because home, no matter how big, always felt like punishment when there was no one to share it with. Then came that knock. Soft at first, like a question. Then again, a little louder. She hesitated, setting down her glass. Nobody ever came here, not on Christmas. When she opened the door, she didn't expect to see a man holding a little girl in his arms, both shivering under the weight of the snow. The man's coat was thin, his eyes tired, but kind. The girl clutched a small box wrapped in old newspaper, her little hands red from the cold. "Ma'am," the man said, his voice gentle but uncertain, "I'm sorry to bother you. My car broke down near the hill. There's no signal, and it's freezing out here. Could we just warm up for a bit?" Eleanor stared at them for a long moment. Every instinct of her corporate-trained mind screamed boundaries, privacy, caution. But something in the girl's eyes, innocent, trembling, and bright, melted the wall she'd spent years building. "Come in," she whispered. The warmth of the fire wrapped around them as they stepped inside. The girl looked around, eyes wide, like she'd just entered a castle. The man smiled politely. "Thank you, miss." "Hartley," she said quietly. "Eleanor Hartley." His eyes flickered in recognition. "Hartley? As in, Hartley Industries?" She sighed. "Yes. The same." He nodded awkwardly. "I'm Daniel. And this little troublemaker here is Lily." Lily smiled shyly and held out the little box. "This was for Santa, but you can have it instead." Eleanor blinked, confused. She took the box carefully and unwrapped it. Inside was a small, handmade snow globe, clearly old, maybe cracked, but lovingly glued back together. Inside the glass sphere, a tiny family stood by a Christmas tree. "It's beautiful," she whispered, surprised at the lump forming in her throat. "It was my wife's," Daniel said softly. Lily wanted to give it to someone who looked lonely. Eleanor froze. The word struck deeper than she expected. Lonely. She hadn't heard anyone say that about her in years, but she felt it every single day. For the first time in what felt like forever, she didn't want to be the CEO, the iron-willed leader, the woman who built an empire from scratch. She just wanted to be human. They stayed the night. Lily fell asleep on the couch under one of Eleanor's old blankets, and Daniel sat by the fire, watching the snow. They talked, hesitantly at first, about simple things. About work, life, the world outside her towering mansion walls. He was a single father, a mechanic who'd lost his wife 2 years ago to cancer. He worked long hours, sometimes skipping meals so Lily could have more. And Eleanor found herself telling him things she hadn't told anyone. About losing her parents young. About building her company from nothing, and how the higher she climbed, the lonelier it became. For once, she laughed, really laughed. Daniel looked at her like she wasn't the CEO of a billion-dollar company, but just a woman sitting beside a fire on Christmas Eve. By morning, the storm had calmed. Daniel offered to leave, but Eleanor found herself hesitating. "You can stay for breakfast," she said. That breakfast turned into lunch. Lunch turned into dinner. Lily ran through the halls, filling them with laughter that hadn't existed there in years. And for the first time, Eleanor didn't feel like she was watching life pass by from behind glass, she felt part of it again. Over the weeks that followed, they stayed in touch. Daniel helped fix her car one day when she mentioned trouble starting it. She visited his garage to bring Lily a gift. What started as small gestures grew into something deeper, something that scared Eleanor as much as it healed her. She was falling for him. And yet, she couldn't say it. She was terrified that if she opened her heart, she'd lose control again. Love had always been something she thought she couldn't afford. But fate, it seemed, wasn't asking for her permission. Months later, as Christmas came around again, Eleanor found herself decorating her house, not because she had to, but because Lily begged her to. Daniel brought homemade cookies, and the smell filled the house. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't glamorous, but it was real. That night, as they sat by the fire again, Lily pulled out something from her small backpack. It was a card. On the front, drawn in crayon, were 3 stick figures, one tall man, one woman with long hair, and a little girl holding both their hands. "Merry Christmas," Lily said sleepily. "Now we can all be a family." Eleanor's throat tightened. She looked at Daniel, whose eyes glistened with emotion. Neither said anything for a long time. Then, softly, Eleanor whispered, "You already are." As the snow fell outside once more, the mansion no longer felt empty. It felt alive, with warmth, laughter, and something she thought she'd lost forever. Love didn't always come from the places you expected. Sometimes it arrived at your door on a freezing night, carrying nothing but hope, a broken snow globe, and the courage to knock. And that Christmas, Eleanor Hartley finally opened the door, not just to them, but to life itself.